Welcome to another episode of Out of the Blank podcast. I'm here we've heard from the first NASA science researcher, Mr. Marc, and now we're here with his esteemed colleague, Brooke Merkley.
Yes, sir. I'm stuck here on Mars. Unfortunately, Marc left me out here alone, so I don't know. Send some help, I guess, man.
What'd you bring to Mars, dude? Tell me you brought Funyuns, or at least Doritos, man. Come on.
We don't even have Funyuns up here in Canada, so I brought the Doritos for sure. Zesty cheddar.
Zesty cheddar. Isn't that too much cheddar? Like, I feel like Zesty is like the late night cheese or the late night person you invite to the party where you're like, I don't know if I want to let you in my house just yet.
Yeah. But,
So, Brooke, what do you do exactly?
So I work for an electrical distributor called City Electric Supply. Basically, we supply material and stuff for electrical contractors, big jobs, day-to-day public people. So being in the capital of Canada, it's pretty hectic up here.
Yeah, especially with what's going on now. How difficult has it been since everything kind of shut down and now opens up?
Our branch mostly does commercial stuff, so we're just starting to pick up because a lot of the stuff was on hold on that side of the business. But it's been really busy the last couple of weeks. Everyone wants everything yesterday, pretty much. So
I was always curious to like Joe Rogan's joke where he talked about like if the power went out, there's two types of people. There'd be people that were trying to fix the problem. Then there were people that would just sit around like, I wonder when it's going to get turned back on. That's basically the same thing we did with the shutdown. We're like, I wonder when we're all going to go back to work.
yeah. And so our company is called like City Electric Supply. So we'll get the odd phone call, some person calling like, hey, when's the power coming back on? And we're like, man, we don't know. We're not hydro, man. We don't know anything.
Yeah, I love it when, like, if I have my internet go out or something, they say there's, like, an outage in the area. I'm like, back in the day we had an outage or something. It was because some person ran into, like, a telephone pole, and then the whole neighborhood's out. Now it's like, oh, well, there was a Wi-Fi signal jam. I'm like, are we being invaded right now? This is the perfect time. Let's roll all the dice.
Yeah. Or like back in the day, like the power goes out, where it is. But now you can see like where the outage went. So they're like, oh, down the road, there must have been that asshole Marc that put the power out down there.
I was wondering how many people were going to return back to work. And then I know there were some people that were still working through the pandemic. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, there was people that were considered essential employees, which was really weird that fitness clubs weren't essential. I mean, I get that's the outbreak kind of spot with contamination, but like alcohol was essential. But
Oh
then
man, yeah.
Alcoholic Anonymous wasn't essential. So then it's like,
Yeah.
hold on a second. Are you condoling us to drink?
Yeah, like up here in Ontario, they just opened up the patios for bars, but you can't go get like renew your license. You can't do any of that stuff, but you can go drink as much as you want. And the Premier of Ontario just said you can hug your family now. So it's just, I don't know.
Wait, you're telling me we're able to hug our family now?
Your family and close friends, you can now hug them, according to the guy up here in Ontario.
Do you think that's kind of weird that we spent basically our whole lives thinking that like we're supposed to come together and love one another, and then it feels like the government at one point was just like, don't touch your family at all, and we just listen?
Yeah. And like in my business, like you meet new people every day, and like the thing to do is like shake someone's hand. Well, you go to shake their hand, you're like, oh wait, no, I can't do that.
I got
So
into a
it's
thing with
odd.
a Uber driver. He like I got in the car and has like his mask on his side, and I'm like, oh crap, I need to put my mask on. And I put my mask on, and then
Yeah.
he goes to reach for his, like, because he sees me do it, and he pulls it up, and then I just drop it. I'm like, dude, I'm not into this if you're not into it. He's like, all right, cool, thank God. And I was like, wait, so we don't have to wear them in our
Yeah.
cars, but we have to wear them when we're around other people in public. But we can have somebody come up to our car window and talk to us, and you don't have to wear a mask. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, like the cops, for instance, like they just come right up to your car window, no mask, just 6 inches from your face, and they're like, "What are you doing, man? Like you're supposed to be social distancing according to the government."
I just want to be like that one cop that like rolls up, be like, excuse me, can you roll down your window? Someone rolls down their window and they just sneeze right on you. You're like, all right, roll your window back up and get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
So what exactly, I know we talk about the job, the electric part, but what about what you do with Marc? Because I know Marc came on and we talked a lot about what he does with his podcast.
Yeah, so it's funny, like before this, me and Marc weren't really that close at all. Like I knew him in high school, And then we started this kind of like group chat 5 or 6 years ago. We weren't really friends at all. And then we just kind of hooked up, got closer for over horror movies. And, we're just sitting there one day and we're like talking about we want to start a podcast. And so we just did it, man. We didn't know what to do, anything like that. So we just started doing it. Like for you, for instance, like how did you start? Did you know like technical background of like computers and stuff like that, or you just
I didn't know anything. I knew that my
yeah.
phone has a record button and there's an easy way to do it. Like I bought lapel mics. I went all out. I had a little Zoom recorder. I'd just been listening to them for so long. I was like, well, this is interesting. And I always am jealous of the aspect of having like a co-host or somebody you can always bounce ideas off of. Cause like
Oh
trying
yeah.
to line up individual people gets a little bit difficult at times. But I mean, I like the camaraderie aspects you get to see, like, especially when you enter the community. Like for you guys, for instance, you guys have this flow in your episodes. Like you guys do listener
Mhm.
feedback. You guys have the wheel. You guys have all these things that I'm watching. I'm like, wow, they're so engaged into, you
Yeah.
wouldn't be able to, you would think that you guys were friends for like ever.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I like about the podcasting too. Like it's so supportive, like not even just in the horror like podcasting, but just podcasting in general. Like before I started this, like I'm not an outgoing person at all. Like I wouldn't have done this podcast with you before I started Marc's podcast because I was just so introverted. But now talking, for an hour and a half to 2 hours with Marc just opened up that side of me.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot more comfortable, like when you know you're being recorded, but at the same time when you're talking to a friend, and it's so like you're not live or anything. Like I always love that aspect. I feel like when you're live, everyone kind of gets nervous or something, and then it's like, all
Yeah,
right, well,
exactly.
if you slip up or you say something that you think a family member's going to hear, you just cut that bad part out.
Yeah, because like you don't really, when you're doing recording, you don't think about what other people are going to think of it. You're just talking with your friend, having a good time. Like I said,
Now,
a podcast,
if
right?
you're talking about horror movies, though, Marc brings obviously his own points when it comes to what he enjoys about a horror film. But what do you typically, I guess, prefer either in film in general or just horror films? I feel like for me, it's always when I see the cast. Like
Yeah,
I'm perfectly fine with a nameless cast, like somebody I've never heard of, if it's a good story to it.
yeah.
But when it comes to if I see Adam Sandler, or if I see a name pop up on the screen, I'm immediately like, well, that's going to be a good one.
Oh, 100%. But then you also get the odd time when there's that superstar cast and then you just get super disappointed in the movie. But yeah, I definitely agree with you that when you see that high end cast, you do get a little more excited.
What do you typically prefer in a horror movie, though? Like, are we talking about like, give me a classic one that you enjoy? I know the name of the podcast is,
Yeah,
I got what movie that one goes to, but
yeah.
is that your all-time favorite?
No, no, definitely not. Probably my all-time favorite is American Psycho with Christian Bale. It's just like such a different movie, and I just love his performance in it. It's just bonkers, and oh man. But
Do you think they're gonna end up making a COVID horror movie?
definitely, there definitely going to be some writers and studios jump on that bandwagon. I think for sure.
I actually spent a lot of time looking back at like some past old movies to see if they held up. Like I looked back at some of Stephen King's works. Like we're looking at The Shining, and then we're looking at a bunch of different things,
Yeah,
old classic movies that still hold up today. The
yeah,
Exorcist did a really good job, I thought. I mean, I enjoyed it, like, but when I saw it as a kid, it just struck so much fear into me, and then I watch it now, and I'm like, I get it, but
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know if that was just because like if I would have waited, would I enjoyed it more when I got older, or is it the fact that maybe that part where I was just so young, like I saw the
yeah.
movie Arachnid or whatever it was, where the fucking spiders are coming all over the place. Like as a kid, and even now, that's scary as hell to me. But like I look at
Oh
The
yeah, Mark hates
Exorcist,
that. Mark
yeah.
hates that shit too. Yeah,
I can't tell what scares me more. Is it when somebody uses a creature or a monster, or is if it's a person? Because like people give this guy a lot of crap, even though every horror podcaster is like, oh, that's not really a horror film. I
yeah.
consider a lot of M. Night Shyamalan films like they're horror to me, depending on where it
Yeah.
goes with it.
Oh, 100%. I definitely agree. Like Sixth Sense, for example, like that's huge horror movie, and a lot of his other movies do have that and those influences on his movies. But for me, like what scares me the most is like kind of like a psychological thriller, like for instance, like Get Out, like that just happened to anybody. Like this like normal everyday shit that could be happening in the world because we have no idea about it, right?
I'm trying to. I see. When I watched Get Out, I was so confused, and to think that that movie was created by two of like my favorite comedians, I
Yeah,
was like, how the hell did they were able to do that? Like, go completely from doing comedy stuff, like
yeah,
A. Ron, those
yeah,
classroom sketches, to straight up making a horror film that made you feel like you were trapped inside of your own mind at one point.
yeah. And like that movie definitely you need to rewatch it because after the first time you're just so like punched in the face, you don't know what the hell is happening or just happened. Um,
Have you
yeah,
looked at, like, we talk about making a COVID movie, which I feel like we all could be a guest star in. But when it comes to like how, have you ever seen a horror film and it kind of picture out to what was going on a little bit with COVID? Because I'm not an anti-vaxxer. Okay. I want to get that
yeah,
right on the table. I'm
yeah,
just saying I'm not going to be the first person to get the vaccine when it comes out because I've seen I Am Legend.
yeah.
And those people got the cure for cancer, and then 6 months later, everybody's a fucking zombie. And I was just saying, this is some shit. I mean, Will Smith's gonna come out and say something at any point right now.
Yeah. Yeah, same with like the movie Contagion. Like I think I've watched that movie 2 or 3 times since this whole thing started, just because it's so accurate to what's happening with this virus.
Is that this? Is that the one that the only subtitles?
No, no, that has like Matt Damon. There's like uh the guy from the Matrix, not Keanu Reeves, but the other guy. But it's pretty much the same thing. Like it's the virus starts with like a pig gets infected with it, and a girl eats it, and then they just start having seizures and start dying because this virus is going around the world. And like you touch something like a pole in the bus, and then you get infected with it. And it's just so accurate to what's happening with this whole COVID stuff.
Yeah, I was like, because I mean, I Am Legend. I don't. That movie holds up to me.
Oh,
Just be
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not only the acting of it and everything, but just the amount of those zombies were some. I mean, if anybody rewatches that movie, like we talk about, if we rewatch a movie or something, you're able to pick up more details than when you did the first time you watch it. That movie has so much extra shit. I started watching it later. I was like, oh my God, I didn't notice that. I didn't notice this. But the zombies, dude, if that, like, everybody's got a plan for the zombie apocalypse. Your
Yeah.
plan gets fucked up when you say what type of zombies they are. People are thinking The Walking Dead. No, I'm talking about I Am Legend zombies.
Oh, yeah.
Your whole, I'm getting a boat, I'm going to fortify a place, that all gets thrown out the fucking window.
Yeah. Yeah. No, those zombies don't mess around, man. Like, yeah, they're fast, they're muscular, and oh man, it's crazy.
They're smart too. I mean, the fact that they were
Yeah.
tracking his scent the whole time, I'm like, you know how hard it would. That's COVID. I predicted again. We're wiping down everything after we touch it with hand
Yeah.
sanitizer. That's the same thing he did, dude. I'm
Yeah.
telling you.
Exactly.
If Listen to me, bro. If a vaccine comes out, just wait a couple months. Don't be the first guy. Just watch what
Yeah.
happens when
Yeah.
when your cousin Larry's hair starts falling out and he starts getting afraid of sunlight. It's when you start being like, all right. I watched on Facebook at like 1 o'clock in the morning this morning. It was one of those foreign films like kind of like Pandemic or whatever that one that was all subtitles was,
Yeah.
but it was a Latino one. And I was
Okay.
watching it and it was like they had the like this giant tongue that come out and would grab people and like suck like their blood out or something like
Yeah.
that. Like they're like,
Yeah.
and I was watching it. I would read the subtitles. It was really freaking good. The dude's
Yeah.
mom got infected and he didn't want to kill her, so he was taking blood out of his arm and like putting it in a dog bowl and trying to feed it to her. And I was like, whoa, like this shit was deep. And I mean, it got intense quick in like 15
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah. That does sound super familiar. Um, but another movie that just came out on Netflix, it's a Spanish movie too. I think it's called The Platform, and it's super relevant to kind of what's happening now. Like basically there's like a kind of jail and it's a platform that goes from level to level with tons of food on it, and there's 2 prisoners on each level, so like the more you go down people just start eating the food, so you got to kind of like take what you can live off of, right? Don't be like a gluttonous person and save some food for the people lower down on the platform.
I think it was the same thing. Like if you ever played the Walking Dead video game,
Great
when they
game,
had
yeah.
when they had the zombies come out and they had the one group that you went when you went into the city, there was one group that just eliminated all the weak people. They only kept the strong to survive people in their
Yeah.
community. I was like, that makes sense that there would be like community groups like that. Like I started looking at like what happened during all this and how everybody started freaking out. I'm like
Yeah.
looking at how like we're getting pretty divided as people. I was like, it's going to end up being like The Simpsons, where we all start going into domes, like people that want to obey the rules by, wiping down everything and wearing masks all the time. Then the people that are like, fuck that. I'd rather just live in a
Yeah.
society where I can shit and then move on to the next toilet without flushing.
Yeah. And like, there's so many people that come to my store and they're like, do you know anyone that's gotten COVID-19? And I'm like, no, man, I don't. And he's like, see, I've asked so many people and no one knows anyone has COVID-19. Like, this is just the government doing this fake COVID-19,
I've known a few people that have gotten it, but I
Yeah.
think it's the fact of like because they always talk about the conspiracy theory with I think in December they were coming out about vapes. They were saying that
Exactly.
kids were dying with health problems, and they could have said, could that be pre-COVID? I was like, it's going to hit some people different ways. The same reason if I do a spoonful of hot sauce and you do a spoonful of the same hot sauce, it might hit you
Yeah.
so hard that you might throw it up. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
where bodies are completely different. I'm just trying to think, if I wanted my life right now to go into a horror movie or turn into a horror movie that I have to live in, what would it be? Like, what would you choose?
Hmm.
Because I don't want The Happening. That movie where everybody's killing themselves is too much for
No.
me. That scared the shit out of me. That dude lied in front of the lawnmower. I think of it every time I see somebody cutting grass.
Yeah. That's a good question. I'd probably say like Cabin in the Woods, I think.
Really, I did a movie review on that with Daniel Craig from the Creepy Crap podcast.
Yeah. I listened to that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Because
that
like I think being in that movie and like you're trying to defeat not only like the monsters that are in there, you're trying to beat the higher up company that's doing this shit to you.
Yeah, but imagine if you get a monster you're not gonna like though.
True.
Like
That's
the
true.
eel that was in the box. Are you
Yeah.
telling me if that thing came out, you would want to be chased down by that? I would just say, fuck. See, because then I couldn't handle things like Michael Myers. I don't think I could. Can you imagine, I mean, moving to a different house to get away from this guy that keeps chasing you and never dies? And you have to keep
Yeah.
fucking moving. Like you just bought a nice ass house. You got a 401k going. You've been living look good for 5 years. You bought a fucking Bentley. And then you just see
Yeah.
some dude out in your lawn and it's the da na 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 na. And you're like, son of a bitch. We got to move again, Mary. I told you we got to move.
Yeah. And it's same with Freddy Nightmare on Elm Street. Like you just can't go to sleep, right? I think that would be pretty scary too.
That one would be easy for me because I'm an
Yeah.
insomniac, so I don't ever sleep.
I feel you, man. Yeah. Ugh.
Can you imagine being Freddy Krueger trying to kill someone who's an insomniac? Like, this motherfucker just doesn't go to bed. Drink a glass of milk or something. God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have,
Um,
have you ever looked at one of these horror movies or any movie in general and thought you could do better? I mean, not maybe acting wise, but on just writing the story. I mean, I feel like like Bird Box, for instance,
yeah.
great beginning.
Yeah.
Loved every second of it.
Yeah.
Then the rest of the hour and a half to whatever to the movie, I'm like, it fucking blows because
Yeah.
it's like you're being blindfolded as well. It's like, I'd rather just listen like to an audio book.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Um, I don't know, like even like a quiet place as well. I think that would be pretty cool to try and be in that world, I think too. Because you just can't talk, make noise at all. And you're just like adjusting to that world, whereas like we're adjusting to this new COVID-19 world kind of thing.
Would you consider a horror film Final Destination?
Yes, I think more of the sequels are more horror than the first one. Because the sequels, they just go over the top with the kills and stuff like that. Whereas the first one is kind of like, I don't know. It's not my favorite of the series. It's definitely a horror movie, but yeah, I don't know. What do you see that as?
I look at it, I mean, I definitely think it's like a horror film. I definitely agree with you on the first one though. The first one was kind of like, I mean, if you saw so many plot holes in that movie, the fact that like the electrical, you get to see like water drip all the way down. I'm like, what the like that's a 1 in a
Yeah.
billion chance of that ever happening that way. But I think the whole putting death in a perspective, like it scared the shit out of me out of a few things in life that I'll probably never get over. The fact that I can't ride behind a logging truck ever.
Oh yeah.
And then also tanning booths. I will never get in a tanning booth after I saw when the girls burned up in there. I was like, I don't even care if that is
Yeah.
a reality. That's just freaky.
Yeah. And even like roller coasters, I still love roller coasters. That one hasn't bothered me at all. But I feel in the logging truck though. And yeah, the logging truck. Yeah.
What would you consider the worst way to die?
Ooh.
Because I thought drowning, but I heard that one
That's
and
that's
being
the
on
first one that
fire.
comes to my mind because you're almost getting suffocated as well at the same time as drowning.
I
I'd
tried
say
to do one of
yeah,
those breath techniques where you try and hold your breath and then keep trying to expand your lungs out to see how far you can, like a minute, 2 minutes, 3, like training.
yeah,
I did it
yeah.
once and I started seeing like a tunnel and started going down and my lungs started hurting. And my dad's like, just grabbed me. He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I was trying to hold my breath. He's like, looks like you were trying to kill yourself. I was like, oh. But I feel like the people say like, oh, burning alive maybe. But from what I've heard from people that are like firefighters that have gotten like severely burned, they talk
Yeah,
about that, like that feeling. It's actually pretty soothing. Like when you see
yeah.
the movie, for instance, you might not consider this a horror film. I consider it more of a drama probably. But The
Mhm.
Gray with Liam Neeson,
I haven't seen that one yet, to be honest.
when they crash on that plane and they're being attacked by wolves and the wolves are slowly picking them off, spoiler alert,
Yeah,
he talks about like, the one dude's dying and he's telling him, he's like, you're going to feel like a warm blanket come over and you're going to feel an amazing feeling and then you're going to drift off into the other side. I was like, that's what I've heard from people that have been
yeah,
like severely burned, that it's actually so painful it's good.
yeah, yeah. I can see that for sure. I got a question for you. So you've done almost like 460 episodes, something like that.
Yeah.
Has Before you did this, like, has your perspective on like the human race like changed at all? Because you've
Yeah.
talked to like so many people, like size, color, race, everything. Like, has your perspective on humans changed since doing this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would give you the answer. You're probably not going to like it. It's not a positive one. I can tell you that. I look at that. It's funny because my buddy just messaged me about that. He goes, because I sent him an episode I just had recently, a guest that was on episode 110, and his
Yeah.
mother came on. And so that's 346 episodes later. And
Yeah.
so it was cool. Like I remember every conversation. I'll remember ours and everything. But I mean, I invite people on every single day, but surprisingly, a lot of the people you get to run into sides of the people. Like if you work in public service or you work in anything that happens to deal with the public, you get to realize people are kind of assholes. It
Yeah.
does
Yeah.
happen that way. There are very good people out there, but it's just this fake shield we put up. But I mean, just through talking to so many people, I've definitely aged myself way beyond my years. I mean, I like to crack jokes and stuff, but when I start getting
Yeah.
down to critical thinking and stuff, I've heard way too many stories, way too much. It's like hanging around your grandparents for too long. You start acting like them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because like you've had some people on here who have some like pretty like legit like important jobs and like very interesting jobs. So it's
Well,
kind of cool to see.
everybody is interesting in their own way. That's what I look at. Like you can have
That's a
PhDs, you
fair
can
point.
have,
Yeah.
I mean, like you're as interesting to me as everybody else that's been on. The whole fact
Yeah.
is, like, I'll remember our conversation where we go with it. It's just about taking that hour, man, because you could be
Yeah.
surprised. Like, we are completely isolated as people. If anybody really wanted to make a horror film, they just make a horror film about what's going on in the world right now. The fact that
Yeah.
nobody's fucking talking to each other. The fact that I just watched as my town, much like some of the cities in America, are falling apart with riots. I just watched 6 kids, maybe a year or two younger than me, get their heads slammed into the ground. One dude died.
Yeah.
That was just yesterday. I live in a small beach town.
Oh
Okay.
wow.
When
Yeah.
that happens, people start to take notice that, like,
Yeah.
we're as people not happy at all.
No.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. It's yeah, it's a divided country and just everything that's going on is definitely divided.
They should make a hardcore Henry, you know, that first person movie,
Yeah.
just of some average dude's life just driving through traffic. Like, my commute to work. And then, like, 20 minutes in, he just looks out the window and some dude just flicks him off and tells him to go fuck himself. It's like, and I get
Yeah.
this on a daily basis.
Yeah, it's kind of like the movie Office Space. I don't know if you've seen that one. Where he's just like
Yeah.
driving to work. He's like stuck in traffic and just he hates his job.
I don't think I've ever been so happy when he took that copy or whatever and they just started beating the shit out of it. I was like,
Oh man.
that was a win for me. I mean, we can
Yeah.
talk about like what's a moment for you where you're watching a movie, either you've been super hooked into it, where you're just like, oh shit, like this is my all-time favorite, or a scene that when it happened or something occurred that you just lost your shit, either if it was bad or good.
Probably a movie that affects me a lot is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, the Jim Carrey movie that came out in like 98, 99. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
I haven't.
So basically, he's dating this girl, and then one day she erases him from her memory, and he finds out there's this company who does this for people. They'll just erase you from their memory. So he goes to this company and he's like, oh, I want it done to me. So he erases her from her, and then it's just this really like psychological movie about him in the end trying to get her back and like win her over. So like she's going into his like thoughts and stuff like that. It's a really intense movie, but just like the thought of someone like erasing you from their memory is
would you want to erase anybody from your memory if you could? I feel like the reason why, even if it's a bad memory, it's meant there to keep you to remember, not repeat a mistake.
Exactly. Like I don't think I would be able to erase anyone from my memory, like even like a past relationship or something like that, because it's part of your memory. It's part of who you are. Like if you erase something from you, then that's just a piece of you that's gone.
Yeah, there's definitely some people I'd like to forgive, but I feel like the reason why we have those is just like so we can always hold that. Like I think like we talk about like with the even like you know how many numbers I've done or something, is the fact is like you soak up that information and then it's imprinted into like your mind. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
it's knowledge, and it's like the same thing. Like I always look at like objects and stuff. Like if you ever go to a scary house or you go somewhere where a certain event happened, like Alcatraz or something,
Yeah.
I'm like, that's got to be stained with the memories of how much pain has been ensued into those walls or just into those hallways. I mean, I think one of the best movies I think they should make is like a Call of Duty Nazi zombies movie.
Yeah.
But you know, leave it like not like to their surviving rounds, but some people make it, some people don't. But I feel like that would be really entertaining for a lot of people, because for me that game was revolutionary. I mean, I don't know how many nights I had at freaking whatever midnight with 2 liters of Mountain Dew with my buddies when we're like 12 years old, just playing zombies. We turn off everything and like all the lights and close the curtains and just have the TV up on like 80. His dad comes downstairs wearing boxers, like, Jesus, could you guys shut the fuck up? And we're just like, I don't know, like we're scared every time we're pausing it because like we're getting higher and higher up in rounds. And somebody's got to pee. We're like, we can't get up right now. We can't do it.
You're just hoping for that ray gun to drop out of the box.
Exactly, dude. That's when we talk about the mysteries of life. You know, when the box gives you a good gun, life's gonna go well.
Yeah. And like you take that saying, you learn something new every day to a whole new level because you're learning something new about some person on this planet.
Yeah, I get to learn about Brooke in this episode. Like,
exactly.
What's one memory for you that you sticks out like with horror films? Is it one that you've done with Marc, or is it one that you might have as a child?
So I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but I used to live above in a video store back in the day. And I just remember I loved going in there and just looking at all the drawings and like the covers of the movie. And like if I saw a movie that looked like, oh, like what the fuck is this movie? Like just drew me attention, I would just pick it up and rent it and go watch it. Like back in the day, like Candyman for some reason hooked me. Beetlejuice, as well.
That one scared me when I was really little, but then as I got older, I was like, oh, he's not a bad guy. He's just a little creepy.
Yeah, like the makeup effects in that movie were so terrifying as a kid. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
you
just love when in the movie store and just finding, yeah.
yeah, you couldn't replace with Beetlejuice. You couldn't do a different actor. I don't feel like it would go over well at all. That guy played so perfect into the part. Like if you try
Oh
to
yeah.
envision for The Shining anybody but Jack Nicholson, it's going to be impossible just because he played that part so perfectly well.
Yeah, like I just started season 2 of the show Castle Rock, which is like a Stephen King adaptation, and they had a younger person playing Jack Torrance in it, and I was like, who the fuck is this guy? That's not Jack Nicholson. It just looked very weird to me.
Have you ever thought about maybe directing or writing your own type of horror film? I know I was talking to Marc about like, the inspiration to kind of do it. Has he ever thought about making like a funny video or something for the podcast wise? And
Um, I think it'd be fun to do, like the podcast. Like we're just doing it for ourselves and for fun. So I think maybe like down the line, if we get more in tune with the technical aspects of recording and videoing and stuff like that, I don't know, it could be a fun thing to do for us.
do you prefer to watch them at home or do you prefer to go to the movies?
I prefer going to the movies, and it kind of sucks right now because all the movie theaters are pretty much closed. Like I would go to the movies all the time by myself. If my friends couldn't go, I just go watch 1 or 2 movies just by myself in the theater.
I just feel like it entraps you more than if you watch it into your house. Like, I mean, I'm more than fine. Like, I watched Avengers Endgame on my phone
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
while I was taking a poop, and my legs fell asleep because you're sitting with your like elbows on like right above your like the top on your thigh,
Yeah.
and I went to stand up and went head first into my towel rack. So like that was an experience that I'll always remember.
Oh
But
my
if I
God.
go to the movies, I saw Ford versus Ferrari, and I'm not a car guy at all. But my
Yeah,
best friend is like, I want to see this movie. I'll pay for your ticket. So we went.
yeah,
It was a good fucking movie. I mean, you get to
yeah.
hear those giant surround sound speakers when the cars go by. You're like, what? That was a good sound effect. I don't care.
That was really good. Yeah.
Well, like like when you hear that come by and everybody's screaming, and then you get to see Matt Damon on screen, and like when the lights go down, especially like it's
Yeah.
crazy to see. Now they have recliners in the theater. You're like, fuck, this is better
Oh
than
yeah,
my
you can
house.
you can order a beer, get a hamburger. It's crazy.
I thought that would be the biggest problem when they let alcohol into theaters. I was like, you
Yeah,
don't want a drunk fucking person yelling at the screen. Like, I know how I
yeah.
get when a football game's playing, and then you got this guy sitting here going, hey, what's her name? Fucking Sandra Bullock, take your blindfold off. It's like, God, shut the fuck up, man. I'm trying to watch a movie.
Yeah, but like you said with Ford versus Ferrari, I feel like the Mission Impossible movies are super fun to watch in the theater too, because you just feel like you're in Tom Cruise's body doing these insane things,
Yeah. Tom Cruise scares me because Scientology.
and he's super short. Yeah,
Hey, did you know he has a tooth in the middle of his face?
it's so weird, right?
Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
You can't, you
If
can't.
if you were going to direct a film, who would you think would be good for a film? Like, I guess it would depend on what the scene would be.
Like actor.
Yeah.
Um,
Like, because I think one movie that I usually talk about as being my favorite, mostly because, like, I'll even ask you this
mhm,
when it comes to, like, a moment when you've seen as a kid, like with a family member or something. I mean,
yeah,
one of the ones I remember the most, I saw Lady in the Water in theater when I was a kid when it came out. And I went
yeah,
with my mom. Paul Giamatti, dude. Fucking A, man. That
yeah. He's
guy,
amazing. Yeah,
he had that stutter, and you thought in the movie that he actually had that. Like that, like
yeah,
I swear I was hooked, dude.
yeah. Or like the movie like Rain Man. Um, what's his face that plays the Rain Man? He does like such a good job in it, and
247,
it's
yes, 247, 237, 222,
yeah,
yeah, 200, 227. Yeah, like people that have that type of acting ability or have that thing, like that's what I love about Christian Bale if you've seen him from all of his weight transformations, how hard he goes
It's
into a role,
insane, man.
and
Oh my
people give
God.
him shit because of I mean, you look like Christian Bale. I'm just saying.
Oh, thanks, man.
You got
Thanks.
the look for it for sure. But when they talk about like he just played in the movie, the one that's coming out, Dick Cheney.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, he put on weight for that role. And for
yeah,
anybody like for me that has a like I love fitness.
yeah,
I know how hard it is to go through major first of all body dysmorphia, and also kind of how your image and how hard it is to achieve certain things. To watch his weight transformation from machinist all the way into going flip back, Batman, all these other types of things. I understand why people think he's an asshole when he goes and yells at somebody who doesn't have like a certain thing at a prop table. But I'm like, you got to
yeah.
understand what he's doing. He's
Oh
gaining
man.
100 something
Yeah.
pounds to play a role, and you can't even put fucking finger sandwiches on a plate.
Yeah, and like up until like 2 years ago, I had no idea he was British.
That was like when I
Like I,
figured out Andrew Lincoln from The Walking Dead was British. I was like,
right?
Jesus.
Yeah, agree, 100%. It's
I was like,
insane.
who was his acting coach?
Yeah, it's crazy.
What do you think about Tom Hardy and coming up with the Al Capone movie?
I was really excited for that movie, but like the reviews I've seen on it haven't been that great. But I'm honestly still going to check it out because Tom Hardy is just amazing.
See, I look at like a lot of movies that get bad reviews, and I still go see it because I have to judge for myself. Because surprisingly, a
100%. Yeah.
lot of the stuff people say is really good, I don't like, and then a lot of people that say like it's really bad movie, I actually
Yeah.
thoroughly enjoy.
Yeah, exactly. Like to each their own. Everyone's got their own preferences.
I,
But
I definitely think there's been too many purges out there.
oh yeah, definitely. There's like 3 or 4, and then they just like canceled a TV show that they had like 2 seasons too.
See, the first one was pretty good, but then like it was like doing
Yeah.
Piranha, like that movie. The first
Yeah,
one was
yeah.
very scary. Then the second one's like, what's this bullshit? And they were talking about doing a third one. I was like, don't you dare! Don't
Yeah,
do
like I think they
Sharknado
like
on me.
literally named it like three double D or something stupid like that.
It was good if you wanted to see boobs, but they didn't stay on very long because a piranha ripped them off. You're like, this isn't fun.
Yeah.
What's your worst experience seeing a horror film?
Um
I saw
well,
zombie strippers. So,
like worst film I've seen.
worst film, one that made you throw up in your mouth. I saw zombie strippers, and I swear to God, I don't know why in my head I thought that was going to be a good combination. But I've never seen something more disgusting than that movie in my entire life.
Yeah. Well, me and Mark are just about to cover a movie called Bone Tomahawk, and that movie has one scene in it that I just cannot watch. It's so bad, like it's disgusting. And
Did you
Mark,
guys cover Signs already?
no, and Mark said that you suggested you pick that movie for a listener request, and honestly, that movie scared the shit out of me as a teenager.
Thank you. It was a
Like,
good mill. It was a good
yeah,
movie.
yeah, like I haven't watched that movie since I watched it back in high school because like I believe in aliens. And then put on top of that, my mom would set up like little wind chimes at my window and just try and scare the shit out of me even more. So
That was one of those movies that when I was a kid, it left me when you turned off a light in a room and you went like, and you would jump through the doorway trying to like make sure like you thought something was going to grab you from behind. Like you would sprint
oh
to your
yeah,
freaking room, dude. I don't know what
yeah.
happened where I just stopped being scared. Like I'll walk downstairs in pitch black open. I guess it's because I'm hungry. I'm not really thinking. Like I feel like that's the only time I would ever go into danger. Like if you ever see a fire on the news, like some dude runs back into his house in a burning fire. It's like I was going back for the mashed potatoes.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
this guy. But like, dude, yeah, definitely do Signs, man. That would be amazing. I love that film so much. I mean,
Yeah,
I was getting so stoned in high school that I was way too lazy to get up and take my disc out of the Xbox. So I would
yeah,
just leave Signs in there. So I would watch it like 1,000 times, just over and over. And
yeah,
when you're high, it lasts 10 hours longer. So you're like, okay, Mel Gibson's really not fucking around with these aliens anymore.
yeah, 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 for sure. That's I should probably revisit that movie to be honest. It's been quite a while.
I mean, it was one of those old school films where like the scenes had more character to it because of the fact they didn't really show the monster. They
No,
just
they didn't.
they left you anticipating, like any old werewolf movies you watch. They don't ever really show the full on, like, now it's way too much, which is cool, but it's like
Yeah,
you get to see so much shit. Like it's gonna end up making it's all the same thing. Some dude's getting his head, ripped off or something, and you're like, all right, that's you're so
yeah,
norm to it. But back in the day, like the remake for A Nightmare on Elm Street.
yeah,
That one where the dude gets stabbed in the back and then Freddy Krueger lifts him up, like
yeah,
that shit got me. Like
yeah,
that was like, all right, I'm in. I like this. And obviously people don't like the remake or who played the remake, but I really barely saw the first actual original one. So that was my
yeah,
original. So it really kind of, it put in my mind like these classic horror monsters that are out there.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, like I'm not a huge fan of the remake, but I definitely get where you're coming from because it's just a newer, updated version of it. And yeah,
Now, if you had to be killed or you're probably going to survive because you're basically Christian Bale. But if you're going to be chased down by a monster, who would you want and who would you least want if you had to choose between the classics? Like, have you ever seen the movie Stan Helsing?
Stan Helsing, I haven't seen it, but I've definitely seen it on like Amazon Prime and stuff like
You need to
that.
watch it. It's like a scary movie, but
Yeah,
with Van Helsing, the movie that's my
yeah.
all-time. If we're going to talk about signs, Van Helsing's right there with Wolverine, bro. Let me tell you something. Hugh Jackman can get it anytime he wants.
Dude, I 100% agree. Like that movie is probably not that great, and not a lot of people like it, but I love that movie.
I like it because they incorporated Frankenstein in such a cool way. And it made me
Yeah,
think if they did a spin-off movie, they should do with the Jekyll and Hyde guy.
right. Yeah,
Nobody ever incorporated like a Jekyll and Hyde scary movie before. It's always been like Frankenstein or something, which he's one of my all-time favorite monsters, if we're going to say that. I mean, just
yeah.
I don't know if you saw I, Frankenstein.
I
Um,
haven't seen that one because I like we were talking about before. I don't think it got the greatest reviews, so I think I just stayed away from it back in the day. But back to your question, probably the monster I most want chasing me is probably like the mummy,
the Mummy.
like the monster, the mummy, like the Egyptian mummy, like the
Oh, okay. I thought
yeah,
we were
yeah,
talking about the movie with Brendan Fraser. That guy. I was like, the dude that's like
yeah.
that scared the shit out of me where he starts
Yeah.
taking people's eyes and tongues and stuff. I'm
Oh
like,
yeah, that's
that's
just
the
a whole
worst
nother
thing.
level. No, like I'm talking, like I just watched the old school one from like the 1930s, and I think that's the monster I would want chasing me because he's not very fast. But the least monster, I don't know, that's a tough one because like Dracula is just everywhere, and the werewolf. I'd probably go with Dracula to be honest,
Dracula.
like a vampire.
That's the one you wouldn't want to chase after you the most?
Yeah, yeah,
I'm trying to I guess because he probably has more powers than all the rest of them. Like if you look at like I think for me the one I would want to chase me would probably be no, I don't know because I feel like Frankenstein depends on which film we're talking about. If we're talking about the classic old school one, I feel like he would just chase me down to the end of the earth, and then him not having any emotion, I couldn't really. I don't like
yeah,
the emotionless stuff behind a killer. Like Mike Myers would probably freak me out too, just with the fact of like he just has that faceless expression. Plus, if you can kill a
yeah.
dog, you're like an enemy in my book forever.
Oh, 100% agree with you. Yeah,
But
definitely.
then I think the one I would least likely to be chased after would be, damn it, Jason, dude. I'm telling you, Jason
Yeah.
Voorhees. I don't think I could do it.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Uh,
Do you
yeah,
think
because he,
Friday the 13th held up with because you're a Freddy fan, so I'm like, Freddy versus Jason, who do you actually think would win in that fight?
oh, I think Jason 100%.
Why do you say Jason?
Oh, just because Freddy's just a little guy who just can't do shit. I think just Jason is just this unstoppable force, kind of like Michael Myers, except he has a machete, and he can't die either. But I don't know, it's tough to say. I think like in a one-on-one fight, I think it'd be Jason.
It really puts into a perspective because when I was doing horror episodes back in October, um, I did a special thing where I was having a bunch of people that were horror podcasters on talk about favorite movies and stuff too. There's obviously the ones that really scare the shit out of you. Some that really kind of change your life or change your perspective on maybe something you're doing. Is there any movie out there that you've seen that's caused you to stay away from a certain thing? I mean, we talked about Final Destination, kind of whatever kind of keeps us away from. You said you still ride roller coasters. I don't agree. I
Yeah.
wouldn't ride a roller coaster after I watched that guy. Also, Home Depot. Fuck that. Every time I walk by the nail section, I'm like, no,
Yeah.
this ain't happening today.
Probably like Hostel, I think.
Hostile. Why exactly hostile?
Because there's these people go on like a your backpack like adventure, and then they just get taken by this company kind of thing that just Americans pay tons of money to torture their people for fun, pretty much.
It made me lead into that documentary. I was getting super interested in haunted houses at one point, and there's a good
Mhm.
film where these people like try and search for the real haunted house, the ones where the people will like put you in coffins and they'll like actually do some dangerous stuff to you. And
Oh shit.
towards the ending of like this documentary, the people got like the people took their camera or something and they shoved
Yeah.
these people in a grave and they buried them alive. And I was like, how far do people go to get scared? Like, I'm not really good at being scared when I'm in a haunted house, but like if somebody
Yeah.
grabs my foot or grabs something, like, I'm like, dude, just don't touch me, man. That's all I ask.
Oh yeah.
Just don't do it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Um, I remember going to Niagara Falls as a kid on the Canada side, and they just have a ton of haunted houses just on this one street. And we went in one haunted house, and it was just like pitch dark room. You can't see anything, and just people start grabbing you out of nowhere, and you're just like, man, stop.
I feel like having haunted houses by Niagara Falls is probably the worst idea because how many people get so scared that they just want to jump off the Niagara Falls to get away?
Yeah, yeah, I can see that.
Have you ever thought about with Marc taking an adventure to go find a haunted house and maybe sit down and do like a podcast episode in a haunted house?
That'd be interesting. Um, because we did an episode on a movie, one of our first ones, and it was about these people who went to haunted houses and stuff like that. And I found there was a lot more haunted houses in the States than Canada. Like we do have a couple haunted houses, like there's the Kingston Penitentiary, which is like an hour away from where I live, and it's apparently like really haunted as well. So it'll be pretty cool to try and get in there and record something.
What do you think about ghosts? Do you think that there's another side?
I think so. Like I remember back when I was a teenager, my mom was recording my little baby brother. He was like, it was nighttime and he was in the dark at the end of the hallway, and she's recording with an old camcorder. And all you see in the camcorder is this little like bubble like float around, and he stops crying when that like goes into the camera. So like I think ghosts are real, but like as a matter of like going to the other side, like I'm not too sure what else is on the other side.
I've seen some stuff and I've come across some things and heard some stories that like it's really hard to explain. It really makes you believe on it. I definitely
Yeah,
think that like you're not just gone. I just don't know if it's like we talk about a memory or something that gets stained into a place. If it's just the leftover energy that's kind of in a building or in a spot, like I mean, if you go down like I think one place I would love to visit is Alcatraz or something, some place where
yeah,
there's been like a horrible amount. I mean, if you go to a war memorial, you feel the sadness in the air. Now, if
yeah,
you go to a place where that stuff happened, imagine the screams and all these types of accounts that people talk about. Like, it makes me think, like, how
yeah,
fucking edgy would that be to roll up and just hear people screaming and going
yeah,
insane?
yeah. Like I've always wanted to go visit Auschwitz, but I think
Ooh.
like the minute I get there, I'm just like, whoa, like what the fuck am I doing here?
Been to like a few museums before. Like I went to the Pearl Harbor Museum and
Oh
seeing like
yeah,
above like we were above the ships that were sunking underwater in
yeah,
Hawaii. that was very, very dramatic, and it felt like you could feel the presence and all this type of stuff too.
Oh,
I
100%.
I think seeing like it's like when I saw this I saw Jaws, which is, if we're gonna talk about a movie that's fucked me up, it's Jaws.
Yeah.
Whenever I see, like, I go to a Baltimore aquarium, I'm like, y'all motherfuckers are in a tank and I'm so happy, and you're like flicking them off like fuck you, like, you're doing
Yeah.
that. Like, and then you get to
Yeah.
see the one with like the goofy ass teeth come by, oh, like,
Yeah.
comes by the screen. And but like I look at that and I saw that on a projection screen in a pool. And
Yeah.
you want to talk about your mind playing tricks on you. That was one that really I mean, I was in 2 feet of water and I was like, I can feel them. I'm going to die. Is it?
Yeah.
Tell my mom I love them.
Yeah.
Somebody write my will, sell all my video games to, my buddy, because don't give them to charity, because nobody gets my video games for free.
Yeah. Yeah, like talk about Jaws. Like I remember I went to Universal Studios like probably 5 or 6 years ago and rode on the Jaws ride that was there. But I feel like it was so much scarier back when it first opened up because people didn't know that much about sharks. But now, like, that like sharks barely kill people. There's like not that many deaths from sharks.
You know what I think you just got me to be able to do?
What?
I've never been on a haunted house ride, like one where you see, like, in my town we have Boardwalk, which is like in local attractions. There's like balloon dart games where you win a fucking stuffed
Yeah.
animal and stuff. Well, there's a haunted house ride that's been here. I've been here 20 something years and I've never stepped on it because I've always been afraid to.
Yeah.
Once I see somebody go into the dark and the door's shut,
Yeah.
I'm not scared at anything unless you jump out of nowhere, and I usually don't react. But like if something gets right in my face, like, I don't know, I'm just not a fan of just jump scares all the time.
Yeah, it's the same up here. There's a lot of it's kind of more country out here, and there's a lot of haunted hay rides. So you're literally like on a tractor, and he's like pulling a little like caboose, and you're sitting on there going through like these deep dark woods, and people like coming out with the chainsaws and trying to scare you, stuff like that. But yeah,
You
that's
strike
definitely
me as one of the people that would love to be doing something like that.
yeah. I think it'd be a thrill just to try and scare these little kids and stuff like that. You know.
My dad tried to sign me up one time for that. He's like, dude, you're gonna love it. I was like, how do you know I want to scare people? And he goes, I did it once. I'm like, what? He goes, look, me and he goes, he's talking about his cousin. He goes, me and my cousin, we went up here on this hayride, and what we would do is when they would come by under the thing, we had a harness that it would hook into me, and I'd be hanging
Yeah.
from the tree by a rope, and it looked like I hung myself. And the people would come by, and I would be like, use my feet and grab something from them. Like, so if someone has
Yeah.
if someone's like, either taking a picture or something, he would try and grab the camera with his feet and lift it up. Like,
Yeah.
like, I thought that was pretty funny, but like, I could see myself working there. I've talked to some people that have owned them. I
Yeah.
just feel like a lot of what's going on, especially with people, like, obviously, like, don't get in my personal space. I'm
Oh
like,
yeah.
I would be the first guy to get punched in the face, and then there'd be a fight that escalated quickly. This motherfucker chainsaw's real. Just
Yeah.
start, driving through them.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
When
Yeah.
it comes to scary movies, though, I do
Mhm.
want to ask: do you think that they've gotten better or worse?
In my opinion, in my personal preference, since doing this podcast, I think I prefer watching the newer movies compared to the older ones. Like, don't get me wrong, some of the old ones are really good, but just I don't know. I think I'm more attracted to the newer age movies
You
because
don't think they rely more on like a basic template? I feel like a lot of the scary movies that are coming out are kind of basic when it comes to the same story a little bit, with just a couple of different features that are different.
I think horror movies today are more smarter to me. Um, and the older ones, like they're super effective and you just really appreciate them. But the newer ones are just so smart, I think.
What do you mean by smart though? I feel like a lot of them, when we talk about like the story or something to it, it relies a lot on the
Like,
technology we have.
I don't know, take like we talked about already, but Get Out. Like that's so relevant to what's going on in today's world. And that movie came out like 4 years ago or three
Yeah,
years
you
ago.
picked that's a fucking good one though. That's a rare one though. Like, I mean, if we look at stuff like man,
And
what's a good, the new Halloween, for instance.
Yeah.
That's nothing good compared to Rob Zombie's House of a Thousand Corpses, the movie that
Oh
fucked up
no,
most kids.
I definitely agree with you there. Uh, I wasn't a huge fan of the newest Halloween movie, but it was all right. But it's definitely not like a newer, smarter movie. But what's like another one like Cabin in the Woods? Like you talked about that movie too. Like that movie is it just took Scream and just upped it. I think.
Yeah, I think a lot of it, like what we're seeing with stuff that's coming out, is the fact that they're starting to incorporate a safety bar, I would say.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
where's cutting off some dad's face and wearing it and then going up to the daughter and going, "Who's your daddy?" Her. Like,
Yeah.
there's
Oh yeah. I
there's nothing
definitely
like
agree
that
with you.
far. Yeah, there's nothing that
No,
far
like
into it.
there's no mainstream movies that are rated R that are horror anymore. It's just the only ones that are rated R is like these like little indie movies that get released like to straight on video or something like that. There's no, intense, crazy mainstream movies going to theaters anymore, which is like kind of disappointing.
What do you think about the future of either the world or the film industry when it comes to either lockdown or maybe the movies that are going to come out? Do you think that we're going to see a popularity of people going to the movies again? I mean, we talked about how it's kind of scary that everything got locked down. You can't really go to the movies.
Yeah.
It sucks. I mean, my town, they're doing movies where they play it on a wall outside and you have to sit in your car and do it that way. I'm like, I
Yeah.
hope this brings back drive-in movie theaters.
Yeah, like we have one drive-in movie theater that's close to us and it just opened up. But I think you'll still get those diehard movie theater fans who would still go to the movie theaters, but I think it's like going to change people's perspective on going to the movies, even ordering dinner. Like people aren't going to go out for dinner anymore. I don't think they're just going to order in like Uber Eats or whatever else there is.
I used to talk shit on Uber Eats until I signed up for it, and then I actually have done a couple trips.
Yeah,
Weirdest fucking interactions I've ever had in my entire life.
yeah. Name a
I,
couple.
I live in like I said, a beach town, so we
Yeah,
have drunk people that are ordering food, and they're the weirdest ones. Like I'm going to drop off a pizza, and you have to, what they do now with the COVID situation, you have to wear a mask, and then you have to just basically knock on the door,
yeah,
and people just want you to walk away. Some dude fucking ordered a pizza. He's
yeah,
a street away from the pizza shop. So you're just too lazy to walk out of your house. So you'll
yeah,
pay $20 for somebody to do that for you. But
yeah.
the update on the app didn't update the location. So it told me he was like 200 streets the other way. So I
Oh
fucking
my
drive
God.
all the way down there, go inside the thing, walk up to the room, and I'm like, it says 113. Immediately, I think I've worked at a hotel, and most hotels don't have a 13th room because it is bad luck.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I go, it goes 112, 114. I'm like, well, that's not true. And I walk downstairs. I'm like, is this Harry Potter? Is there a secret fucking door that opens up? And I drop the pizza off. And the guy goes,
yeah,
what are you looking for? I'm like, it says right here. And he goes, oh, dude, that hotel's not here. It's actually right. I was like, that's a fucking street from where I just was. He goes, yeah, man, sorry, you're going to have to go back. So I have to take a 30-minute ride all the way to freaking go deliver to this guy's pizza. And he opens up the door. Hey, man, what took you so long, dude? It's not 30 minutes or less. I'm like, this ain't fucking Pizza Hut, bro. And you sent me in the wrong direction. And I had multiple occurrences like that. One, a
yeah.
drunk girl invited me into her house. It was like, why don't you come
Nice.
sit down and enjoy a nice Chipotle bowl with me? And I'm like, I'm good. I'm really not into eating Chipotle because last time I ate it, I shit really hard.
Did either of them tip you very good or what?
Surprisingly, you make good money. I made $200 in 2 nights doing Uber,
That's awesome.
which is
Yeah.
like mostly tips because especially during COVID, people are so fucking generous.
Oh yeah. That's how I feel too. Like um last weekend I ordered a pizza. I went to pick it up and they took forever to make it, like an hour to make this pizza. But I still gave them like a $10 tip just because like everything going on, like a small business, they're struggling. I understand where they're coming from.
Now that brings up my very important question that kind of leads into where the beginning of it went. When I asked, what's your movie staple food? Whether it's in a movie theater and then also one
Yeah.
when you're at home with your buddies. If you're with Marc, I know you guys got to be making some food or you guys just eat before you go. Cause I think the whole part about talking or watching a horror film is like pizza,
Yeah.
ordering pizza. And then when you
Yeah.
go to the movie theaters, I used to
Yeah.
say snow caps, the little
Yeah.
chocolate guys, but now Juji fruits, bro.
Okay. Yeah. Mine is Sour Patch Kids
Oh shit.
and nachos.
Nachos.
Yeah.
Do they sell those in movie theaters?
I think popcorn's overrated, to be honest. Yeah, like not like full nachos, like you get like the tortilla chips with like the hot cheese, like
I
those
feel like I've
nachos.
seen so many movies where somebody's going to the movies and they're getting the actual hot cheese. I think when I was a kid they had that, but I think they stopped doing it because it was just too messy.
Probably, yeah. But definitely Sour Patch Kids and nachos for me.
I think that's for me. Like if I was, my one buddy works at a movie theater. The only perk
Yeah,
I see in that job, besides getting to watch free movies, is the smell of fucking popcorn. When you walk in, I don't even want to eat it, but the smell of it, you're just like,
oh yeah.
whoo, God,
That
put my
greasy
head in that
butter
thing.
just coursing through your bloodstream.
Nothing like finding pieces of bacon in there as well.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Brooke, I appreciate you coming out and doing the podcast, man. I
God,
want you,
man, I had a great time. It was nice meeting you, and I hope we can talk again soon.
I hope to see signs on your guys' next listener request.
All right, maybe I'll put it in there for you, buddy.
Well, look, I want you to promote your page and everything too. So, tell
All
everybody where
right,
you're
so
at.
yeah, you can find our podcast on Spotify, pretty much anywhere. If you go to our Instagram page, it's a podcast on Elm Street, and has underscores under each word for some reason. You can find our link tree, and that will take you to all of our merch, our uh, different pages, Spotify, iTunes, everywhere you can listen to it. And yeah, just check us out. A couple of small boys from up north Canada, talk about horror movies. It's a good
You're,
time.
you're from Ottawa,
Yeah, yeah.
and that's where Norm Macdonald and Tom Green are from.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I found that out basically 5 minutes before we chatted.
Oh man, Norm and Tom are legends, man.
Just like you and Marc, bro.
Well, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me, man.